Hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. Today's video is on Chapter 3, Section 6, Conflict and the Ego. In this video we do a deep dive into the mind. We explore the cause of the separation, more commonly known as the fall from grace, or man's expulsion from the Garden of Eden. We examine what led to this, how the ideas and beliefs that came about led to numerous misunderstandings and conflicts. We wrap it up with what must be done to restore the truth to our minds, while offering solutions to the numerous conflicts and misunderstandings they produced. I hope everyone comes away with a better understanding of the dynamics of the mind. Before we begin, a word on the format of the video. I'll read a paragraph of the text, then unpack and analyze it. This is repeated for the entire section. Markers are included to distinguish between the two. Knowledge is included from the Seth books of Jane Roberts where appropriate. They have proven to be an invaluable complementary to the course. Let's begin. Text. Conflict and the ego. The abilities man now possesses are only shadows of his real strengths. All of his functions are equivocal and open to question or doubt. This is because he is not certain how he will use them. He is therefore incapable of knowledge, being uncertain. He is also incapable of knowledge because he can perceive lovelessly. He cannot create surely because his perception deceives. Perception did not exist until the separation had introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. The soul has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. The levels which man created by the separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are essentially meaningless to each other. Comments. Here's a statement that requires some extra thought. The abilities man now possesses are only shadows of his real strengths. Let's dig into it. Most of us have had some experience where something beyond the ordinary or expected occurred. It might have been a hunch, a gut feeling, a strong inclination to do something. You might have had a dream giving you information about someone or an action to take. You may have heard a voice telling you to do something. Then there are the numerous stories of out-of-body travel, referred to as astral travel, or being able to access psychic layers of information, commonly known as the Akashic records. Next, there are individuals with significantly limited mental and physical faculties, but with highly developed abilities such as being able to draw, sculpt, or play a musical instrument without any prior training. These are examples that defy the norm or explanation. They occur with such regularity that they cannot be denied. We are all familiar with ESP or extrasensory powers. This is a catch-all for abilities beyond our physical senses and intellect that we do not fully understand. Senses such as clairvoyance, the ability to see beyond the physical. Clairaudience, the ability to hear beyond the physical. Clairsentience, the ability to feel beyond the physical. This one is commonly known as our intuition or gut feeling. Then there's telepathy, the ability to communicate mentally with others. These abilities or senses allow us to collect and share information beyond our physical senses. Together they account for some of the unusual or out-of-the-ordinary experiences mentioned above. Imagine if we were to take the approach that they are innate to all of us, and with proper training, could be developed to a functional level, similar to our intellectual and physical abilities. The benefits to individuals and society would be immeasurable. Here's some good news. It's already happening. These and many more innate abilities are there waiting for us to develop. One important caveat, as man has the tendency to weaponize everything. These abilities must be used only in productive and constructive ways that promotes the best interest of all. We must always remember. The golden rule is on duty, 24/7. Text. Freud realized this perfectly, and that is why he conceived the different levels in his view of the psyche as forever irreconcilable. They were conflict-prone by definition because they wanted different things and obeyed different principles. In our picture of the psyche, there is an unconscious level which properly consists only of the miracle ability, and which should be under my direction. There is also a conscious level which perceives or is aware of impulses from both the unconscious and the superconscious. Consciousness is thus the level of perception, but not of knowledge. Again, to perceive is not to know. Comments. The reference to Freud, the father of modern psychology, is because the originators of the book, Helen Schucman and William Thetford, both being psychologists and familiar with his work, could easily relate to the course's ideas of the psyche by comparing and contrasting them to those of Freud. The course considered Freud to be a very ingenious thinker, but saddled with certain beliefs and fears, which limited his view of the psyche. Here's a summary of the course's and Seth's ideas of the psyche. The psyche functions on a conscious, unconscious, and superconscious level. The conscious is the physical level we're all familiar with. It is the realm of the ego. Here, we have our physical senses, intellect, and limited awareness of our ESP senses mentioned previously. We use them to collect information, make decisions, and take actions. We have access to the other levels, but it is limited. The unconscious level is the realm of our inner ego, higher self, or, as the Course recommends, Jesus. It is the intermediary between the conscious level and our superconscious level. It does not have the limitations of the ego level. It knows a whole lot more, has access to a whole lot more, and does a whole lot more. It knows and executes the blueprints of our lives, manifests our physical needs. It depends on input from the ego level for information on the physical realm. Access to this level is increased by removing limiting beliefs, fears, meditation, and dream recall. The superconscious is that of the creator level. Here we have full access to the resources, knowledge, and abilities of the mind. All limiting beliefs, misunderstandings, and fears have been removed. A high level of mastery of the mind has been developed. This is the objective of our journey. It is where we become co-creators. There are no conflicts, limits, or separation of any kind among these layers. They all work in harmony and are dependent on each other. They are the levels of the Trinity. God the Father is the superconscious. The Son is the conscious. And the unconscious is that of the Holy Spirit or Jesus. Again, we increase our awareness and mobility of the levels by removing limiting beliefs and fears from our minds. Text. Consciousness was the first split that man introduced into himself. He became a perceiver rather than a creator in the true sense. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is a man-made attempt to perceive himself as he wished to be, rather than as he is. This is an example of the created-creator confusion we have spoken of before. Yet man can only know himself as he is because that is all he can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. Comments. This is a good place to offer the explanation I got from the Seth books of man's overall evolutionary experience on planet Earth. The physical dimension, of which the Earth is a part, is one of many available to all of God's creations. It is where we come to learn of and develop our innate God-given abilities, while also exploring the numerous opportunities they have to offer. Not all opt for this dimension. For those of us that do, the species of man, having got to a certain level of spiritual development, we decided to embark upon a path different to that as designed and recommended by our Creator. Having a free will allows us this option. We stepped out of the safe, secure, comfortable, spiritual cocoons we were in, to learn of ourselves, develop our abilities, forge a new identity, chart a new course. This is similar in many ways to what many teenagers experience during adolescence. We were not the first to do so. Neither are we expected to be the last. In doing so, we seemingly started a whole new world where we defined ourselves, creation, and the rules we live by. In this redefinition, we denied and slowly forgot the truth about ourselves, how to access knowledge, our inner senses, our reason for coming to this dimension, and having eternal life. We opted instead for a limited image of ourselves as physical beings with only physical senses and an intellect. This is the source or cause of the separation, the fall from grace, or eviction from the Garden of Eden. But it is only a belief, not our true reality. Text. The ego is the questioning compartment in the post-separation psyche which man created for himself. It is capable of asking valid questions but not of perceiving valid answers, because these are cognitive and cannot be perceived. The endless speculation about the meaning of mind has led to considerable confusion because the mind is confused. Only one-mindedness is without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is uncertain by definition. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. Comments. Asking questions is the process we use to gather information, improve our understanding, validate everything we seek, and acquire knowledge. There is another process where knowledge is available to us. However, we are barely familiar with it. As such, we do not trust it. So, we wander around in this state of forever seeking and barely finding the truth. And even when we do, we are still not sure. It would be nice to have a spiritual encyclopedia or a spiritual Google search. The good news is, it already exists. Some refer to it as the Akashic Records. We tap into it in a variety of ways: dreams, meditation, trances, and consultations with individuals that have developed access to this level. This was previously referred to as the unconscious level. We all have access to it. However, effort and focus is required to improve this access. This will be a game changer for all of mankind. Text. Intrapersonal conflict arises from the same basis as interpersonal conflict. One part of the psyche perceives another part as on a different level, and does not understand it. This makes the parts strangers to each other, without recognition. This is the essence of the fear-prone condition, in which attack is always possible. Man has every reason to feel afraid, as he perceives himself. This is why he cannot escape from fear until he knows that he did not and could not create himself. He can never make his misperceptions valid. His creation is beyond his own error, and that is why he must eventually choose to heal the separation. Comments. We live in societies that are saturated with conflicts at all levels. Within ourselves, with others, among groups, religions, races, cultures, nations, and more. Just look at the news, social media, or any type of social activity. You are sure to find conflicts of some kind. They are so ingrained in us, we thrive on the stimulation they provide to function, to feel alive. However, this comes with a price, a very expensive one. Here are just a few: high blood pressure, strokes, drug addiction, phobias, neuroses, racism, sexism, crimes, wars. It's obvious we need challenges to motivate us. However, we need to find solutions that are constructive and productive. Solutions that allow us to identify and connect with each other. Solutions that highlight we have more in common with each other than seemingly separates us. In truth, we all come from the same source. Have the same innate abilities, though some may have developed further than others. The more we acknowledge and affirm these truths, the more we progress towards getting out of this doom loop of misunderstanding and conflict. Text. Right-mindedness is not to be confused with the knowing mind because it is applicable only to right perception. You can be right-minded or wrong-minded, and even this is subject to degrees, a fact which clearly demonstrates a lack of association with knowledge. The term right-mindedness is properly used as the correction for wrong-mindedness, and applies to the state of mind which induces accurate perception. It is miraculous because it heals misperception, and this is indeed a miracle in view of how man perceives himself. Perception always involves some misuse of will because it involves the mind in areas of uncertainty. The mind is very active because it has willpower. When it willed the separation, it willed to perceive. Until then, it willed only to know. Afterwards, it willed ambiguously, and the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception. The mind returns to its proper function only when it wills to know. This places it in the soul service, where perception is meaningless. The superconscious is the level of the mind which wills this. Comments. The numerous objectives we are here to work on requires us to develop the many abilities we were given at our creation. To effectively do this, we need to be aware of certain basics of the mind. It is habit-forming. It functions best when at peace. The instructions and objectives we give it should not conflict. It never sleeps. Even while we are sleeping, it's still on the job. It is the ultimate supercomputer. It needs instructions and programming on what tasks to perform. Through our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, desires, objectives, and will, we provide them. Mastering all of this is a huge challenge. But we're never given more than we can handle. Here's more excellent news. Our Creator gives us unlimited resources and opportunities to facilitate our progress. They include unlimited time, not just one life as some believe. Numerous persons, including friends, families, and even enemies to accompany us on our journey. many dimensions in which to practice and explore. This way we never get bored, and spiritual guides to show us the way. Coming to this awareness is an important milestone, after which we no longer wonder what life is all about. Our focus changes, we become more purpose-driven. If it hasn't happened to you as yet, be patient. It's not far ahead on your journey. Text. The mind chose to divide itself when it willed to create both its own levels and the ability to perceive, but it could not entirely separate itself from the soul, because it is from the soul that it derives its whole power to create. Even in miscreation, will is affirming its source, or it would merely cease to be. This is impossible, because it is part of the soul, which God created, and which is therefore eternal. Comments. Here's a fundamental truth that we cannot change, regardless of the beliefs we hold. We are creations of a higher source. All of our innate abilities and energies comes from this source. Every creation, miscreation, thought, belief, emotion, will, event, and experience is powered by the energy from this source. Something to keep in mind whenever we start thinking of ourselves as masters of the universe. Text. The ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something, and with something. This is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, actually a distorted form of creation, then permitted man to interpret the body as himself, which, though depressing, was an attempt to escape from the conflict he had induced. The superconscious, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This is why it became almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, the superconscious was perceived as a threat, because light does abolish darkness merely by establishing the fact that it is not there. The truth will always overcome error in this sense. This is not an active process of destruction at all. We have already emphasized that knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What man perceives as its attack is merely his own vague recognition of the fact that it can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. Comments. Here, we take another dive into the separation, man's desire to separate himself from creation. To do this, he first had to deny his innate abilities that allowed him to know and function using his inner senses. For anyone interested, the book, The Seth Material by Jane Roberts, presents a description of those inner senses accessible to us at this stage of our psychic development. As Mal identified himself with the body, he also limited himself to collecting information via his physical senses, then assessing it with his intellect. Thus perception became necessary, which is a translation or interpretation of what actually occurred. It may not be initially obvious, but perception does not produce certainty. Just consider how many times in the past you've had to change your opinion, assessment, or perception of a given situation for a variety of reasons. In our societies, many of us gain status, position, and influence with the information we've acquired. The fact that much of this information is based on perception is irrelevant. Having that information challenged in any way puts those acquisitions at risk. Many of us will go to extreme measures to protect these treasures. This explains why many who came to remind us of the truth were rejected along with the knowledge they brought. They challenged the status quo, a big no-no. Fortunately for us, our higher selves have unlimited patience and understanding. They know scarcity or limitation is only a teaching tool. God did not make a mistake. The truth will eventually be remembered by all. Text. God and the souls he created remain in surety, and therefore know that no miscreation exists. Truth cannot deal with unwilling error, because it does not will to be blocked out. I was a man who remembered the soul and its knowledge, and as a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge so much as to correct error from the bottom up. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. By uniting my will with that of my Creator, I naturally remembered the soul and its own real purpose. Comments. Here's some more good news. Miscreations have a limited shelf life. Put another way, anything that is not of love does not have an eternal existence. Devils, demons, evil spirits, dwens, doppies, ghouls, gremlins, and anything similar did not come from our Creator. It doesn't mean they do not exist. just that their only source of energy is from individuals with distorted minds. For those seeking conflict or attack, their minds are also distorted. The response is the same for both. If you believe them, fear them, or want to fight them, then you give them energy and prolong the conflict's existence. If confronted in any way by any such situation, just wish it peace and leave it alone. We were created to manifest in the same manner as our Creator. Any deviation from that is a misunderstanding that leads to miscreation and possible conflict. Text: I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring it under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your own way. Without them, your choice is certain. Sane perception induces sane choosing. The atonement was an act based on true perception. I cannot choose for you, but I can help you make your own right choice. Many are called, but few are chosen should read. All are called, but few choose to listen. Therefore, they do not choose right. Comments. Something we'll all come to realize. The closer we get to the truth, the simpler it gets. We are all given a mind and free will at our creation. Our responsibility is to learn of them to the fullest extent of our ability, and use them to extend creation. Put simply, use them to bring forth the best in us, help others where we can, hurt no one, and add creations to the universe. Put a smile on God's face. Nothing difficult or complicated about that. Our guardian angel, higher self, inner ego, Jesus, or whatever name or title you prefer, is there to help us. But it cannot override our will. We must request its assistance and be receptive when it comes. Again, nothing complicated about that. Text: The chosen ones are merely those who choose right sooner. This is the real meaning of the celestial speed-up. Strong wills can do this now, and you will find rest for your souls. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. As always, our task is to put these ideas to the test. Determine if they are valid and reliable. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. If you've gotten any value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe.